Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe. Forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe, that will not murmur or complain beneath a chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempest rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then whate'er may come, we'll taste and hear the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fit it for the sky, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my powers engage to do my Master's will. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live, and O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give. Help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely, assured if I my trust betray, I shall forever die. Rise up, O men of God, have done with lesser things, give heart and mind and soul and strength to serve the King of Kings. Rise up, O men of God, his kingdom tarries long. Bring in the day of brotherhood and end the night of wrong. Rise up, O men of God, the church for you doth wait. Her strength unequal to her task, rise up and make her great. Lift high the cross of Christ, tread where his feet have trod, as brothers of the Son of Man, rise up, O men of God.
Let's edify.
The saints of professionalism and shenanigans. Greetings
We're
all.
definitely so shenanigans that we don't even have our brand up here anymore.
Yeah.
There we go. Whew, that's better.
Rocking that side of the news. CJ, where's that professionalism you're supposed to bring in? CJ's the only one that's professional around here, so
Heaven help us.
No one's professional. We are in the book of Acts tonight.
Hello, Sam. Hello. How are you, dearie?
Sam.
CJ tries to steer the conversation on to what we're doing.
Hello, Sam. How are you, dearie? Uh-oh. He's bringing out the songbook.
No, uh-oh.
It is uh-oh because my schnauzer is stuffered up, so you're gonna have to sing alone because for some reason after my singing there earlier, my schnauzer is now snuffered.
Don't worry, CJ. Dad'll sing solo.
I'll sing solo. No one can hear me. Might even get in some tenor, 10 or 12 notes.
I'm hoping that my grandma gave me some sinus and immune system pills. I'm hoping that starts helping me out. She said take 3 days per month, and it should help you get cleared up so I'm not always sick during this time. I'm hoping it does.
I take a general regimen of vitamin B, D, C, and zinc. Which, by the way, I don't think O'Shea gave me the. I don't think he gave me some of that today. I think he skipped the C and the zinc today. Well, maybe not. Anyway.
Alive waiting on my cooked pig.
Yes, I think he said there a couple of days ago that Helen, when she got back from the funeral, said that they were getting a pig to raise for cooking.
Nice.
So I think that's what he's meaning. I could be wrong. It might still be in the car.
How about Hallelujah, praise Jehovah?
Sing out lustily. Can you do the song that we see on the screen? That we can see on the screen.
Murder some ears, CJ.
So, in other words, what he wants to make sure you have a PDF of it. If you don't, then don't sing it. Is what he's saying.
Okay.
Alicia, there was some other stuff along
I got
Where'd they go?
Levi telling me don't use PowerPoint so much, and I got Sam requesting I use PowerPoint.
Well, there's a big difference between using PowerPoint as a crutch in your preaching and using PowerPoint so that everybody can see to sing. What's the word of it? Can be united in singing. Can raise their voice together in song.
Well, I'm not using it on Sunday mornings for the moment because I am just doing notes for the book of Judges and going through that. I have another habit I'm trying to break, but I really don't want to break it. I like doing book studies.
Stuart needs to get out here and help. But there was some stuff that for Thea's phone that should have come in and I'm not sure where it went. So.
Give me just a second here. There it is. Alright.
Oh, wow. They brought 5 kilos of meat sold to us by the neighbor. Sam says, I am. CJ is tech savvy. You should see the late night conversations that we have when he asks my help dealing with rotten apples. And I'm not an apple expert by any means.
I'm not an apple expert, and I've had an apple for what? Since April, so 8, 6, 8
I've
months.
never had an Apple device. I don't want an Apple device.
Me neither, before Paul said, here you go, which I deeply
You have your Big Mac.
Oh, that's right.
Okay,
Well, I
don't
think
tell me you haven't had an Apple because that Big Mac has been sitting in your room for ever since I've known you. Hello, Craig.
have we known each other a year more? 2?
We've known each other for just a little over a year. Like maybe 3 months over a year. Because remember that this time last year, you and I were doing our very first gospel edification meeting. Chua, that's
Not
not what you do.
quite.
Oh yes,
Was it in
this
October?
is the 31st of October. We started like the last day or two of October, and we ran into the first couple of days of November or more
Oh,
as we did our very first gospel edification meeting.
I thought it was like right smack dab in the middle of October or November.
Nope, it was right at the crossover.
Well, that's cool.
So we are celebrating our 1 year. Well, actually, you and I think you and I got to know each other. Well, actually, the first time I saw you was through Brother Paul's live stream with you one night. Would have been about September of last year. And from there, you kind of wormed your way into our hearts, you bad apple worm.
And then you said, hey, let's start a ministry together. And I said, okay, that sounds great. And here we are, almost 1 year later. Not
Yeah.
quite.
Yeah.
CM, but
CEM will be exactly 1 year old the week after Thanksgiving, or the day after Thanksgiving. Hey, nothing else?
Hallelujah, praise Jehovah. Hallelujah, praise Jehovah from the heavens, praise his name. Praise Jehovah in the highest, those angels praise proclaim. All together praise him. Sun and moon and stars on high, praise him, O ye have no heavens, and he flows above the sky. Let them praise, give Jehovah, for his name alone is high, and his glory is exalted, and his glory is exalted, and his glory is exalted far above the earth and sky. Wait for a second. I'm gonna need a pitch pipe because that was so high.
What's wrong?
Too high.
Ah, yes.
Oh.
You're going to kill your voice that way, you know.
Let them praises give Jehovah that were made at his command. Then forever he establishes the creation. Seriously. Shall we stand from the earth, O great Jehovah? All ye floods, ye dragons, oh, fire and hail and snow, and the vapor, stormy winds that hear him call. Let them praise his game Jehovah, for his name alone is high, and his glory is exalted, and his glory is exalted, and his glory is exalted far above the earth and sky. All ye purple trees and cedars, all ye hills and mountains high, creeping things and beasts and cattle, birds that in the heavens fly, kings of earth and all ye people, princes great who judges all. Praise his name, young man and maiden, aged men and children small. Let them praise his gift, Jehovah, for his name alone is high, and his glory is exalted, and his glory is exalted, and his glory is exalted far above the earth and sky.
I know you.
And Sam says he was baptized on October 31st. Or maybe the one of those. Oh, of.
Well, happy birthday, Sam.
Yes, I think we should do a double birthday because we have our physical birthday plus our spiritual birthday, which mine's February 8th, by the way, 1989.
Was it last year, October 31st?
Well, there's an October 31st every year, CJ.
Well, what year was it? October 31st, Sam.
Oh, no, he's been 87, I think, or something like that.
Oh, 87.
Something like that, 85, 87, somewhere right in that neighborhood, if I remember
So
correctly.
you've been a Christian a while.
He's only a couple years older than me. Oh, he said 74. I was way off. 84. Okay. Well, which was it? Okay, that's a little better. He's only 5 years older than me. Spiritually speaking. No. That's a book. That is not
Well,
a book board.
we are,
84. It is 84.
we are in the book of Acts tonight, in chapter 12. And
Well,
just,
you might be able to find me in the book of Acts, but what about you?
I'm in the book of Acts. Well, not my
Book,
name.
chapter, and verse.
No. Can you find Levi? Oh, I guess Matthew's in Acts chapter 1.
Well, I think
Does it call him Levi in Acts 1?
I don't know. I don't know. What a weird tangent we get off on. And I did say you might be able to find me in there. I want to make sure that you know you heard me correctly.
Call them Matthew in Acts 1. That's the only place I would think.
Well, don't forget there was still the tribe of Levi.
Alright, that's right. That would be Acts 4. Right? Doesn't it mention that Barnabas was from the tribe of Levi?
Oh, I'm over.
Verse 36.
Why, yes. See?
Doesn't,
One of
I
my
mean,
children was. The cool thing is, what number of child was Levi to Joseph or to Jacob? I mean,
3.
I'm also the third son of my father.
That's cool.
I just thought I'd throw that out. That's pretty cool.
So we are in, well, Levi, his name is in the book of Acts. I'm not in the book of Acts. But we are studying the book of Acts tonight, and boy, it has been a good study. I don't know about you, but I've enjoyed studying it with you every week.
When I'm there every week.
Come
On the
on,
weeks
Howard.
on the weeks that I'm there, I definitely enjoy studying it.
So in Acts chapter 12, we see another persecution break out
I enjoy
among
studying.
the church by Herod. Herod persecutes the church in Acts chapter 12 and verse 1 and puts to death James by the sword because it pleased the Jews. And Levi pointed out that this is most likely, this was a public killing of James. And so Herod, just like Pilate, is a crowd pleaser. He wanted to kill the Jews, and now, since that pleased the Jews, he put Paul in prison to have him publicly executed as well. And he's put in custody by, under the oversight of 4 squads of soldiers, so 4 times 4 squads would be 16 guards. And they talked about the fact that perhaps he heard of the Christians' reputation of being escapists in Acts chapter 4, 17 through 20. We read of the apostles being put in prison, and the angel lets them out, and they're back preaching in the city square for the Sanhedrin to find them. And so we learn that Herod intended to bring him before the people to put him to death after Passover. That was kind of the appeal for Herod to keep him. And while this is all happening, we learn that the church there is constant in prayer in verse 6. And this prayer was for him by God, made to God by the church. He is being prayed for. And in a way, that prayer was answered. Because in chapter 4, 6 through 11, we read of an angel letting Peter out of prison, and now we pick up where Peter kind of gets waken up by this angel, through, leads him through the first and second. God leads them through the iron gate. And now we pick up where Peter in verse 11 is realizing what just happened. He was kind of out of it. And now he's going to go in verse 12 to the house of Mary. So we are picking up there in Acts chapter 12 and verse 12.
So as we read then, Acts 12, we almost had it. Meep, 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 meep. Hello, Ezra. Thank you. Let's go ahead and, as is normal, I think, CJ, you're going to be reading for me.
What would you like me to read?
Let's go. Our initial jaunt will be 12 through 17.
Okay.
Or rather, 12 through 19.
Okay.
That'll finish out this event right here.
Okay. And when he considered the thing, he came to the house of Mary, the mother of John, whose surname was Mark, where many were gathered together and were praying. And when he knocked at the door of the gate, a maid came to answer named Rhoda. And when she knew Peter's voice, she did not. She opened not the gate for joy, but ran in and told that Peter was stood before the gate. And they said unto her, Thou art mad. But she confidently affirmed that it was even so. And they said, It is his angel. But Peter continued knocking, and when they had opened, they saw him and were amazed. But he, beckoning unto him with the hand to hold their peace, declared unto them how the Lord had brought him forth out of prison. And he said, Tell these things unto John and to the brethren. And he departed and went to another place.
Keep looking sweet.
Now, as soon as it was day, there was no small stir among the soldiers what was become of Peter. And when Herod had sought him, he found him not. He examined the guards and commanded that they should be put to death, and they went down from Judea to Caesarea and tarried there.
Hello, Heather. Now, as we just read, Acts chapter 12, or 12 verses 12 through 19, we're going to finish up the issue with Peter and his run-in with Herod, if you will. Peter has, as CJ just gave us a rundown of what the events that occurred to present, Peter has just been released from prison and has come to his senses after the angel has departed him. And he's standing there thinking, "No, where should I go? What should I do?" And as he considers the matter, he comes to the house of Mary. He decides to go to the house of Mary, the mother of John, whose surname was Mark. This John Mark, this is not the Mary, the mother of Jesus. This is Mary, the mother of John Mark. And we see this this particular John Mark in chapter 13. He's the one that goes with them, with Saul and Barnabas on their maiden journey, or the first missionary journey in Acts chapter 13. He's the same journey. He's the same John Mark, which causes great consternation or a great argument between Barnabas and Paul, which then actually causes them to split. And as I recall, if I recall correctly, John Mark actually happened to be related to Barnabas. I think he was Barnabas' sister's son. Oh, thank you. And I'm trying to remember where it is. The argument between Paul and Barnabas was in Acts chapter 15, verses 36 through 39. And yet, I mean, the reason Paul was so upset at it was because of an incident involving John Mark on their first journey. Yet, John Mark actually becomes one who is very dear to Paul. Let's see if I can remember that passage. And you find that later in Paul's writing. So this is just somewhat of a rundown of John. Let's see.
I think it's in one of the Timothy letters. Maybe. So Barnabas, what did you say the relation between Barnabas and
Sister, son?
well,
That would have been nephew.
Colossians 4:10 calls Barnabas Mark Barnabas's cousin.
Cousin?
Yeah.
Colossians 4:10, you say? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just Marcus. Aristarchus, my fellow prisoner, saluteth you, and Marcus, sister's son, to Barnabas, touching whom you receive commandments. If he come unto you, receive him. I believe, I'm not 100% certain, but I believe that's actually Mark.
I thought that was John Mark there.
I think that is. Ezra, give me that in the ASP, please. Colossians 4:10. I don't have my. There you go. And Mark, the cousin of Barnabas, touching on whom. But I thought there was one in actual Acts, but I'm failing to find it.
I thought it was part of their disagreement, like a parenthetical, but I wasn't finding it in Acts 15. But I think that might be just the reference we're looking for.
Okay. Anyway, I have that one underlined. 15, 14. There's 14, there's 15. So anyhow, that is actually neither here nor there. You can continue looking for it there if you would, CJ. Maybe you can find it for me.
I think the only connection I remember is here in Colossians 4:10. That says Mark is the cousin of Barnabas. I think this is what you're looking for.
Yeah, but there is one that says John Mark. It talks about John Mark in another passage as well. And that's the one I'm looking for right now. But there is in 2 Timothy 4 and verse 11, take Mark and bring him with thee, for he is profitable to me for the ministry. By that time, he was only going under Mark. So that was the one you were thinking of. Anyhow, back into what we're doing. So we see that this is Mary, the mother of John Mark. And it's important to note that the surname Mark is used in almost every passage in Acts when it's talking about John Mark. And that's because there we have the Apostle John. We have, I think there was one John who was the Lord's brother. I know there was James who was the Lord's brother, but there was another John, and then we have John Mark. We have James and John, the sons of Zebedee, and then we have John. Who was the other John? There's the disciple that Jesus loved. I don't think that was John, the son of Zebedee. I think that was a different one.
Is that John? There was an apostle named John.
Well, there was James and John, the sons of Zebedee.
Right.
Those were apostles.
Yes.
John
Mark. Are you talking about John the Baptizer? That's another John.
No, but I'm talking about who was the other. I was thinking there's another apostle.
I think there's only one John.
Because there was the John that Jesus loved.
Right, that's the apostle, right?
Who was beheaded at the beginning of this? Was that James?
John the Baptizer.
James, the brother of John with the sword.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
You're in the wrong passage there, my friend.
I'm in Matthew. Sorry.
Yeah, you're in Matthew. We're dealing with Acts, See? I told you weren't in Acts.
We better get into our text here. We're getting sidetracked.
Oh, I'm in the text. Let's see here. There's Peter and Andrew, James and John, the sons of Zebedee. Where were the rest of the disciples?
Matthew 10 gives a list.
Thank you.
I think Acts 1 also gives a list.
Okay, we have Peter, Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew, which is also named Levi, James, the son of Alphaeus, also known as James the Less, and Lebbaeus, or Thaddeus. And then there's Simon and Judas Iscariot. So, okay, there wasn't a second John. So, the John that Jesus loved happened to be the John, the son of Zebedee.
Right.
Uh, James was martyred in Acts 12.
Yep.
So anyway, here and that was John's brother here, but this is not this is not that John the apostle. This is John Mark. So this is not an apostle from what we
Right.
can tell. But he does play an important part through in Acts. So Peter's here at Mary's house, um, and Peter's knocking on the door. I always love this story because here he is knocking on the door. This is darkness, this is dark 30. And Peter's knocking on the door, and the damsel comes to hearken to open the door. Who's this knocking at the door? Her name's Rhoda. And she hears Peter's voice, and it's a very distinctive voice in verse 14. So she hears it, she understands and she recognizes it, and for joy she runs back in and says, "Hey, Peter's here! Peter's here! Peter's at the door!" You can see her brimming full of joy and happiness, excitement, and they're like, "You're mad! You're absolutely stark raving mad!" But she continues to affirm it. So they're like, "Well, why didn't you open the door?" You can see them asking that. Why didn't you open the door? So they go back to find out, okay, is it him? Well, Peter at all this time has been knocking. Come on, people, open the gate. I'm standing out here, waiting for them to come haul me back away to prison. Open the door. So they open the door. And they're astonished. Here's Peter standing there, looking them full in the face. They see the whites of Peter's eyes. This is who they've been praying hard for. If you remember back a few verses, in verse 5, Peter therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the church unto God for him. How long were they praying for him?
As long as he was in prison.
Right. In verse 3, we find out this was the days of unleavened bread.
The week.
So there was at least a week. So on the day, or on the night of the day, the night before Herod was going to bring him out, Peter was released. So he was in for at least a week, and the church was making prayers for him without ceasing. Can you imagine the prayer vigil that's going on through this time? Can you imagine how many people came and went praying for Peter constantly, day and night? Some people leaving to do their work or take care of their business, coming back and continuing the prayer. That's the idea that we get. This prayer never ceased. It was constant. It was done by the church without ceasing, verse 5.
Right.
Brethren, I think we've lost the art of praying. I really do. We fall asleep when we have a prayer over 3 minutes. We start timing our looking at our watch if we have a prayer that's over 30 seconds. We've lost the art of praying. Now, they're amazed. They're astonished. They're shocked. You could have knocked them over with a feather. Now, they're, you can hear them. They're whispering. They're like, "Oh, whoa, it is Peter. What?" And he's beckoning unto them, like, "Shut up. Shut up and listen to me." Shh, shh. I love this. You can tell I love this. Think about it. What would you do if you had have been just released from prison? Would you not be looking over your shoulder expecting
Yeah.
to be taken at any second? Would you not be scared of the slightest sound? And here he is. He's knocking. Come on, open the gate. Open the gate. And he's beckoning with them. Hold your peace. And he declares unto them how the Lord brought him forth out of prison. And he says this, tell these things unto James and to the brethren. And he left. He went into another place. Kay says, I think you're right. I don't think many pray like that anymore. You know, here in Iowa, we have there's a yearly event. I don't know how faithfully it's attended anymore. We haven't gone in years, mainly because it hasn't been very well founded. The organizers, it kind of got off into the weeds, but it was called Pray Over Iowa, where people from all over Iowa gathered together. We sang songs and we prayed. They had men up there leading the prayer, and for like 3-4 hours of a night, we sang songs and we prayed. That was amazing.
Amen.
But I am going to tell you, spoiler alert, CJ and I are planning to do the same New Year's ring-in like we did last year. We hope you will join us as we ring in the new year with prayer and singing. I'm going to blow my nose, so I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, you going I wanted to touch on something in verse 14.
Go ahead.
Were you gonna bring up them saying it is his angel?
No, I wasn't going to. Remember, it's not angel, it's messenger. We get too wrapped up in this idea that every time that the Greek mentions angelos, we're going to be angel. It's an angel. It's a heavenly spirit.
Right.
No,
Well,
they're talking about his ghost. They're talking about his, they're talking about a spiritual message, as in Peter has died.
Right. Well, I had a few notes on this.
Of course you did. You wouldn't come to a study of Acts without having a few notes, my brother. Let it rip. Let's hear them.
Some take this to mean that we have that there are 2, maybe 3 possibilities. Some take this to mean that we have guardian angels, which I don't buy into, but they would use Hebrews 1:14. Of course, Jesus is. The Hebrew writer is saying how Jesus is greater than the angels. And in Hebrews 1:14 it says, are they not all ministering spirits sent forth for them who shall be heirs of salvation? So the Hebrew writer points out that in some capacity, don't ask me what, angels do service for Christians. I don't know in what capacity. I'm not going to speculate, but I wanted just to present that before you, and you can do what with it you may. And also, here's this passage. Hebrews 13, 1 and 2, which this could be more along the lines of a messenger here, that's what I think. But Hebrews 13, 1 and 2. Let brotherly love continue. Forget not to show love unto strangers, thereby some have entertained angels unawares. And so this is another text that people like to say that we have guardian angels, and I'm gonna tell you right now that is bogus. These texts do not teach this. This text could be interpreted as forget not to show love unto strangers, thereby some have entertained people with a message unawares. Like, like, uh, like, Levi was saying, but just something to think of. So that's the first possibility. Some people mean to take this to mean we have guardian angels, which I don't. And if we did, that presents some problems. For example, let's take the loss of our brother Bob Hibbard, for example. Does that mean that his guardian angel failed? Or what about James in this context? Where was his guardian angel? So that's not a very good argument. The second thought on this text is what I think. Uh, they just thought it was a messenger from Peter. And that is borne out in the Young's literal translation when it says, "And they said unto her, Thou art mad," and she was confidently affirming it to be so, and they said, "It is his messenger." After all, this makes sense because angelos means messenger. And so, and then the third possibility, which Levi touched on, it was his ghost, which it's interesting that no translation translates this as ghost, but from verse 16, their astonishment, I'm back at Hebrews 12:16. There might be something to that. But Peter continued knocking, and when they opened, when they had opened, they saw him and were amazed. So if they were thinking, Herod's got his hands on him, and Herod's already killed James, Peter's already gone by now. He's a goner. And when they Peter, when they saw Peter, they were astonished. This could explain their astonishment, but I think the most likely interpretation, in my thinking, could either be option number 2, where they thought it was just somebody from Peter, or like Levi said, and that would make sense in the response, that that it was his ghost. But to say that it was some guardian angel does not have any bearing on what Scripture teaches. So that was my little spiel on that verse.
Have you ever studied Matthew chapter 18, verse 10?
Matthew. See that ye despise not one of these little ones, I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father who is in heaven.
I just thought I'd throw that little wrench into your monkey works.
I don't know what to do with that. I would have to study it. But the question still raises, where was James's?
Notice I never said this was a guardian angel.
Right.
And I think in answer to your question to one, where was James, is exactly what Sam said. And that is, it was God's will to receive James home.
Right.
Jesus told James and John that they were going to be baptized with the baptism with which Jesus himself was baptized with. They were going to die violent death, or actually, they were going to suffer, rather. They were going to suffer a lot. And James did. He was beheaded. John suffered quite a bit. They tried to kill him how many different times? In fact, throwing him into a vat of boiling pitch, to which he came out alive, which is why they ended up giving up and sentencing him to life in solitude on the Isle of Patmos, which we read in Revelation chapter 1. But the thing of it is I cannot say with any certainty about something I do not know. In other words, a lot of us know just enough knowledge to hurt ourselves.
Right.
And so I refuse to make definitive statements on something I don't know. What I do know is that we need to stop ascribing spiritual beings to every time that the Bible mentions the word angel or angelos, or in other
Right.
words, messenger. Now, a messenger, according to the definition of the word, can either be the spiritual kind, it can be a preacher, it can be I think Strong's records it as a pastor. By implication, it's just simply someone with a message. So these here, in back over into Acts chapter 12, Craig's going to call it a night. Thank you for the discussion and reading of the verses. You're welcome, Craig. You have a wonderful evening. And may you wake refreshed tomorrow after a safe and peaceful night's rest. Sam, what you says? What you told? What about you've entertained angels without knowing it? Again, CJ already touched on that, Sam. Folks,
I
we don't know who we have entertained. Sometimes we've entertained preachers and not known it. Sometimes we've entertained missionaries and not known it. Or just people traveling through. The question is, are you hospitable enough to open your doors to someone passing through?
right.
Um, and are you hospitable enough to be sending people, brethren, on their way? Remember what Jesus said. He said, inasmuch as you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. And there's some very wonderful stories out there to illustrate this point. I think of the old shoemaker as he's down to his last pennies. And he's sitting down to eat at the table and eat essentially his last meal. And he hears a knock on the door, and it's an old beggar. And as you progress through the story, it turns out every time he gets ready to sit down, there's another case that is some poor, benighted person. And he ends up helping all of these while he's waiting because he had received a message saying that the Lord was going to come and dine with him. And at the end of the story, what you see is that he is on death's doorstep. And the Lord comes. He says, I waited for you. I had everything ready for you. And the Lord says, but I came to you. I was the beggar woman. I was this orphan child. And you see, the idea is that the person, the shoemaker, was a good soul, and he was hospitable, even giving to the last bit that he had to those in need. And as much as you did it to the least one of those, you did it unto me.
That's right.
So we need to make sure that we're not ascribing, some sort of heavenly being encounter to every time the word angel is mentioned, because that's not always what it means. And so we really do need to take care that we um, don't go overboard. However, what we do know is here, Peter beckons them, tells them to hold their peace, and he just tells them all the wonderful things that happened. Why? Not because he was necessarily worthy, but because the church made intercession for them, or for him rather, without ceasing. They beseeched God for almost a week, constantly praying on behalf of Peter, and God answered their prayers. So he then departs out of the area. He goes to another place because he doesn't want to be found by Herod, right? He
But
don't want to go back to prison very much. Then he's had a good chance to think about this while he's been sitting there knocking on the door. So as soon as it was day, now we come into this next section, and this one is very, very sad. Because you see, the culture and the practice is very barbaric, and yet I can understand the logic behind it. In verse 18 through 19, what we find here is that Ezra is not moving the Bible. so that we are still on 17 when we are to be 19, on 18 and 19. So what we find is Herod then sends to have Peter brought forth so he can behead Peter. And unfortunately, he cannot find Peter. Peter is nowhere to be found. And this caused no small stir because he'd been hanging by the arms between two guards. And there was another two guards on the door. And another two, you know what I'm saying? You never found what before, O'Shea? Ezra not moving the Bible?
That's never happened before.
Okay. So now Herod has sought for him, didn't find him. So he brings out these keepers. He's examining, he's finding, he's wanting to get to the truth of the matter. Remember then, he's listed in 4 quaternions. In other words, 4 squads of soldiers. That means there's 16 soldiers that are guarding this man. There was not a one that could answer him. And what is so sad about this is the next statement. He commanded that they should be put to death. All right. In the Roman times, to lose your charge was a death sentence. There wasn't any room for mistakes. In fact, I want to take you back to another period of time, several years before this event. I'm thinking, is this one in John or is this one in Luke?
What you looking for? Oh, the tomb.
It's got to be Luke. It's not John. No. Okay, it's one of these crucifixion ones. I'm real scientific here, aren't I? As we look at this,
Maybe it's Matthew.
well, that's what I'm headed for now. Should have started there in the first place, you know. Yes, Matthew 28, verse 11 and following. Now, while they were going, behold, some of the guard came into the city and told unto the chief priests all the things that were come to pass. Now, what guard is this? In Matthew 27, verse 62, um, we have the chief priests and the Pharisees coming together unto Pilate and saying unto him, Sir, we remember that the deceiver said while he was yet alive, After 3 days I will rise again. Command therefore that the sepulchre be made sure unto the third day. We're in 64. Lest his disciples come by night and steal him away and say unto the people, He is risen from the dead. So the last error shall be worse than the first. Pilate said unto them, You have a watch. Go your way, make it as sure as you can. And so they went and made the sepulchre sure, sealing the stone and setting a watch. That means they put Pilate's seal or the Sanhedrin's, one of the two. They put a lead seal on that tomb that it was to not be broken. And they had their watch. So they had soldiers guarding this tomb. And this guard came to the chief priests and showed them all that had been done. Back in 28 verse 12 now. When they assembled with the elders and had take counsel, they gave large money unto the soldiers, saying, Say ye, his disciples came by night and stole him away while we slept. And if it come to the governor's ears, we will persuade him and secure you. And so the guard took the money, verse 15, and did as they were taught. And this is saying is commonly reported among the Jews until this day. If you go among the writing of, I believe it's of Flavius Josephus, in his Antiquities of the Jews, you will find this story repeated. But it's interesting to note right here that these soldiers were commanded to lie and say that they fell asleep on duty and his disciples came and stole him away. Now understand, that's a big stone that was rolled in front of the door. It's not going to make a little bit of noise. It's not going to move silently.
And
Go ahead.
Maybe I'm being foolish, but it wouldn't be a quick process. I guess you could do it with 12, well, at that time, 11 men, but still, it wouldn't be just open, shut. There would be some struggle to it.
It wasn't an open shut case. Okay, but they were the Jews, the priests and the chief priests and the Pharisees commanded these guards to say this, lie about this, and they were going to intercede for these guards so that they wouldn't die. That's the meaning behind this passage. If you go back to verse 14 there, Ezra, if this come to the governor's ears, we will persuade him and rid you of care or secure you. However, these guards here in Acts chapter 12 did not have the benefit of the chief priests. For as we see here, Herod sought them, they examined the keepers, and then commanded that they should be put to death. 16 men lost their life because of this miraculous deliverance of Peter. 16 men failed in their duty to secure Peter, which brings about another reference to, or I should say, it brings about the reference to another saying. You know, when God shuts a door, no man can open it.
Right.
When God opens a door, no man can close it.
That's right.
And when God delivers Peter, 16 men lose their life. When God delivers Peter, he stays delivered.
That's right.
With God, all things are possible. And as we pretty much run out of time, we covered a whopping 7 verses. But I think it was good to get through these because we did
That's
talk about some
right.
deep subjects,
Yeah.
or some deep topics. And um,
I'm really tempted to finish out chapter 12,
I am too.
but it's already an hour and 15.
Yeah. O'Shea says they have just had to jump in their skid loader and then they could move the rock real easy, right?
Should we put it to a vote?
Wake up,
Let,
Sister T.
let everybody decide if they want to stop or keep going?
Well, you guys want us to finish the last 5 verses, or you guys want us to keep going? Or, I mean, you guys want us to give up for the night? By the way, O'Shea, you do realize that they had vehicles back then. After all, they went in one accord. So they
Keep,
had Hondas.
keep going, Carol says. If we're gonna keep going, you're gonna lose me for a second.
Go on, hit the bathroom.
Sorry.
See you in a minute. Sam says I would say more, but my baby girl is keeping him busy. His baby girl is keeping him busy. Wake up, Heather. Can I get a refill, please? Yeah. Good point, Kay. Is 5 verses 5 hours? Well, I don't know. We did 7 verses in an hour and 15 minutes. So maybe we could do 5 verses in another hour. Well, we'll have to wait and see about CJ as he gets back here. You know, us gamers there, Kay, we could keep going, right?
What was the consensus?
Well, Kay was wanting to know if 5 verses were going to be 5 hours.
Yes.
I told her, well, 7 verses took us an hour and 15 minutes.
So do you want me to read it? Want me to read that section?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do this.
Do you
We can cover this one pretty easy.
Oh, there it is. Verse 20.
Hit it.
You were just talking about this verse.
Yep.
Now Herod was angry with the people. Oh, sorry. I'm in the ESV. Now he was highly. Yep, that's right. Now he was highly displeased with them, with Tyre and Sidon, and they came with one accord to him, and having made Blastus the king's son, chancellor, their friend, they asked for peace because their country was far from the king's country. And upon a set day, Herod arrayed himself in royal apparel and sat on the throne and made an oration unto them. And the people shouted, saying, "The voice of God and not of man." And immediately an angel of the Lord smote him, because he gave not God the glory, and he was eaten of worms and gave up the ghost. But the word of God grew and multiplied, and Barnabas and Saul returned from Jerusalem when they had fulfilled their ministration, taking with them John, whose surname was Mark.
All right, we've got basically 3 points out of this next 5 verses. So Sam, don't worry, we'll make it short. First off, Herod has been living down in Caesarea. So he went down from Judea to Caesarea in verse 19. While he's living there, he becomes displeased with Tyre and Sidon. Tyre and Sidon are two main port cities on the coast of Israel. They were very, very wealthy cities. And if you look in the history of them, I mean, they were really arrogant in a lot of ways. They were, I think, if I remember correctly, on their history, they were founded by the Phoenicians, which were seafaring people. But Tyre and Sidon, especially Tyre, was prophesied against in several of the prophets. To the point of where God prophesied the destruction of Tyre and Sidon. Now, Herod was very displeased with him, but they decided to come together and try to appease him. So they made Blastus. They made friends with Blastus, which is the king's chamberlain, and through him delivered a message to Herod seeking peace. So, and it's for a very simple reason. They got their food from Herod's country. They got their food from Caesarea or Idumea.
You don't want to bite the hand that feeds you.
That's true. You do not want to bite the hand that feeds you. So they just sent this message, and as a result, a day was set when Herod would come and give them a speech. So he does that. He arrays himself in very fine linen, fine apparel, royal apparel, by the way, royal apparel. 21, Ezra. And as he makes this speech, the people shout. Verse 22, Ezra. What?
It's frozen.
Well, unfreeze it. It's not that cold out, right, Ezra O'Shea? If you have to shut it down and restart it, then do that. All right, so in verse 22, the people... No, he'll be right back.
Okay.
In verse 22, the people gave a shout saying, "It is the voice of a God and not of a man." All right. And so they decide to flatter Herod. Hey, buttering up gets you everywhere in Herod's time. And you know, there's a lot of people out there that still ascribe that. Flattery gets you everywhere.
Well, they probably knew Herod to be a people pleaser, he's already bought into flattery from the Jews in the beginning of this chapter.
Well, I'm not sure about being necessarily a pleaser because he's very upset with them, but and they're wanting to appease him.
Right.
So what they understand is that he's a very shallow person, easily manipulated. Herod's cunning. He's crafty. He's not a dummy. When he killed James, the brother of John, with a sword, he saw that it pleased the Jews. So he was going to see if he couldn't, curry more favor with them and to prevent having to send bad reports to Rome.
Right.
But now this time, he's upset at Tyre and Sidon, and they want to please him. So they figure, hey, we're going to flatter him. Are you coming back, Ezra?
He has
You know those. You know the specific processes you need to shut down. Why don't you do it? All right. So they're going to appease him, and they say it's the voice of a god and not of a man. And it's kind of like, when Sam said that I was a spiritual giant, and I'm like, no, well, no, I'm not. I was going to say that earlier. I'm not. I'm just a student, just like you are. Sam says, so God was not pleased with him, so God done away with him because he took praise to his head. Well, the praise did go to his head, but you're getting ahead of the boat there. What was it? I had a brother who he said, I don't know why. He comes stomping in one time. He said, I don't know why God put me with this family. And Mom looks up at him and she goes, it's to keep you humble, honey. Oh, that was my oldest brother for you. Anyway, so what we see here, the voice of a God and not of a man. And immediately the angel of the Lord smote him because he gave not God the glory. You see, Herod knew the law. Herod knew he was not that great of a person, but he tried to take glory that was not his. And because he tried to take that glory that was not his, he tried to set himself up as a god. God dealt with him very swiftly and in a very public way. The angel of the Lord, or an angel of the Lord, smote him, and he was eaten of worms and gave up the ghost. That's a fancy word for saying he died.
Yep.
And he died in a very vicious way. Being eaten of worms is not a very pleasant process. It's worse than leprosy. Sam said, by the way, we do not think CJ as worming his way in our heart, not this kind of worm. That's true. Okay. But because of this incident, because of Peter being released from prison, and because of Herod giving up the ghost having been eaten with worms, God's word, the word of God, grew and multiplied. It bore much fruit. And then our final point here in this passage is verse 25. Barnabas and Saul returns from Jerusalem when they had fulfilled their ministration, or their ministry, their mission, if you will. And they took with them John, whose surname was Mark. This is important because remember the mission that Paul and Barnabas had been sent on. We were told this mission back in Acts chapter 11. The end of chapter 11 tells us, let's see here, let's look at 28 through 30. We are told that there stood up one of them named Agabus and signified by the Spirit that there should be great dearth throughout all the world, which came to pass in the days of Claudius Caesar. Then the disciples, every man according to his ability, determined to send relief unto the brethren which dwelt in Judea, which also they did, and sent it to the elders by the hands of Barnabas and Saul. So this is the mission that Barnabas and Saul had been sent on, and having fulfilled that, faithfully done their duty, carried out their responsibility, they come back to Antioch, this time with John, whose surname was Mark. And that sets the stage for Acts chapter 13. So as I said, it was going to be a quick one, and it was. We basically covered that in 10 minutes. 5 verses. God doesn't always deal with us as swiftly as he did Herod, or as apparently as he did with Peter. One of the things that we should note from Acts chapter 12 is that we as the church need to get back to praying like the church did in the first century. Is there a need for our prayers? Absolutely. You want to, if we ever have a hope of influencing this world, we need to begin by devoting our time in prayer to God. It is only through our constant communication with God, and that constant communication takes 2 forms. The first being that we express our desires to God through prayer. The second being he expresses his orders to us through his word. That's called the communication. That's called two-way street there. So we need to pray like they prayed. We need to listen and obey like they listened and obeyed, if we ever hope to influence this world for good. And that's what you find in Acts chapter 12. You find church members caring so deeply for one of their own that they spent a week in prayer for that individual. We barely have time, it seems. In my life, it is anyway. We barely seem to have time for a prayer over our food before we have to get on to something else. One of the things that I have enjoyed so much about CEM and our time with CJ and with y'all is that it has called me to a deeper faith, a deeper prayer life, a deeper study, and that has edified me tremendously. And I hope and I pray that I in some way can repay you guys for what you've done for me. And you're right, Sam. We should be grateful that God has patience with us. We deserve a lot more than what we are getting.
That's right.
And that is so much. So one of the things that I started this earlier this year to lead to a deeper prayer life is a prayer journal. And as you have seen also through our constant uh, reading in the evening, is we, CJ and I, and O'Shea, have these sheets of paper where we write down people that need prayed for. And we continue in prayer for these people in our private prayers, in addition to the one that we voice publicly as we lead you in prayer. Um, it's important. Prayer is important. We speak to God, the Creator, and most importantly, our Father, when we kneel in prayer. Whether we're kneeling physically or spiritually, it matters not. We're still kneeling to God.
Amen.
So, with that being said, that is one lesson that we can take from Acts chapter 12. We need to develop a deeper prayer life. So, another thing that we need to that we need to develop is a deeper study life. A deeper that leads to a deeper faith. No matter what way you look at it, that leads to the meat and the potatoes of a life in Christ.
Amen.
Carol says, I believe those help too. So, again, I know that CJ, it feels the same way, that we want to thank you for being with us and bearing with us as we take this journey each Monday night into Acts. And we hope and pray that you'll be join us again next week as we continue Acts chapter 13.
Yes. Just a few announcements. Tomorrow, Wednesday night, we'll be picking back up. And wait a minute, are we doing the switch this week, or are we good through Wednesday night?
We're still doing the minor prophets.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't know if we would.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Ooh. We might be doing the switch.
So stay tuned.
I gotta look and see when that starts.
We all
brought
just
it up.
know that my announcements are coming. So, it is November, pretty soon we do have an announcement. We will be switching either this week or coming
next.
up or next week. Our prophet study the Friday night. And then the Young Brothers edition will be Wednesday night temporarily, unless we like it that way, but I like Friday nights.
The only reason that we're doing the switch is because I have a medical class I have to take. It's called diabetic education, so I have to go for those. And they switched it and made it on Wednesday night because we don't have Bible study at our local congregation on Wednesday. We have ours on Tuesday, but also because I could never make the Tuesday afternoon classes because that was at 4:00.
Right.
So they switched it and made it late, a little bit later, and so I'm going to be at Diabetic Ed while this evening edification is on. So we're going to switch it up and do Young Brothers edition for the month of November while I go to those classes.
Oh, that is this week.
It might be this week. I have to look at my calendar. If you'll wait just a moment.
Just stay tuned for that for just a moment. And also, on Thursday afternoon, we will be in part 9 of our series I hope to wrap that up soon in the book of Matthew.
Wednesday night. Diabetic.
And then on Saturday night, we have our Romans class back again. We are going to be studying Romans 3. So we hope that you can be with us throughout the week this week.
It will be Wednesday starting this week.
So, okay, starting this week, we are going to have Young Brothers on Wednesday night, and on Friday night, we'll have our My Prophet Try stream.
Our Try stream.
So be looking for that for the month of November, and also in the month of November, me and Levi and O'Shea have thought it fitting for this month to have things related to thankfulness as a focus. And so starting tomorrow, I don't know what time, but there will be a short reading, like a couple seconds long, where we just read the verse and have it on screen of the Psalms.
Each day we will go through a different passage of Thanksgiving, and it's going to be, a brief passage. It'll be just a few, maybe, anywhere between probably 30 seconds to a minute long. And another video at a different time will be just a prayer. Or no, wait, that's just a posting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. And we will be posting a prayer, not actually a video, but a post of a prayer of thanksgiving for each day of the week throughout the month of November. So that's something to look forward to.
So yes. So I think that's all the new things that we got going on. I can't help it. Who knows? We could think something that fits genuinely think outside the box.
Yeah, we generally think outside the box. Who knew we could think of something that would fit?
Well, we hope you have been edified tonight, and our goals at CEM are easy as 1, 2, 3. We want to glorify God in everything that we do. God's our focus. Edify the saints and answer any spiritual questions you may have. Thank you all, and God bless.
Hold on. We pray and we hope and pray that you have been edified to a closer walk with the King. That way, whether we wake tomorrow to serve him here on this earth, or we wake to serve him up there tomorrow, you know where we'll be, because we'll see you then. God bless.
God bless.